It's on YouTube at DJ Benita. It's on Facebook at Benita Pedersenn. And it's on Facebook at All Fired Up for Freedom. Can somebody find me Nicole? Send her over to the stage here. Let's get Nicole up here. Come on up, Nicole. You've got an important job to do. Give her a big welcome, you guys. So our first presentation is Nicole leading us in song. And we're going to encourage all of you to participate. And I have never been more proud to be Canadian as I have become in the last month or so. How about you? Very, very proud to be Canadian. Very, very proud to see Canadians standing up for what's right and true. So if it's on your heart to do so, please join in the singing of O Canada.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God, keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you so much, Nicole. Thank you for that. And thank you, everyone, for singing. How many of you are proud to be Canadian? And it took a bunch of truckers going to Ottawa to show us that we're proud to be Canadian. Let's hear it for those truckers. And there's truckers with us here today. So we have an amazing program planned for you. Absolutely fantastic. Some terrific presenters. And so one of the things I just want to remind you of is to stay warm, do some wiggling if you have to, play in the snow a little bit, stay warm. And there is a spot to warm up over here if you need to for a few minutes. But don't go warm up too long because you don't want to miss any of this program. So our first presenter today is a gentleman that I got in touch with before I personally went to Ottawa. And we chatted some about the freedom movement, the importance of freedom. And then I actually got to meet him in Ottawa. And I'm so proud that MP Arnold Pedersenn came down to the freedom area and we got to have a chat. I got to interview him and another MP, Cheryl Gallant, and that's on my Facebook page. And I'm just so pleased that there are some elected representatives that are willing to come out and talk to us freedom-minded people, willing to listen, willing to speak for us, willing to stand for us. And when you have an elected representative willing to stand for you folks, it's important to encourage them. So let's hear it for those elected representatives that are starting to stand up. And I'm looking forward to the day we have more. That's what I'm after. For me, the freedom movement is all about winning minds and hearts. That's what we need to do. Just winning over more people and persuading them to come to us, right? This isn't about animosity. This is actually about love. It's about love. And if we just keep loving each other, we're just going to love them with kindness, lots of love, and win them over to the freedom movement. And that's what's happening. And that's what the truckers have done by going to Ottawa and peacefully demonstrating as they did. Let's hear it for the truckers again. It's just amazing. So, Mr. Arnold Pedersenn, I know you're busy with your kids. Did you still want to come up and say a few words? Yes, he's game. He's going to go for it. Okay, we might need a couple volunteers to help with the kids here. And we're going to get Arnold Pedersenn up here to chat. Thank you so much. Awesome.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. How are we all doing? Good. Well, thank you, Benita, for organizing all this, and I think the Fergusons had something to do with it as well. So thank you to them. I want to just wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience from Ottawa with the truckers there. I think that wasn't me. I think my next mailer you'll get to see some pictures from Ottawa. But Benita did come down there. The truckers were on the street for about 3 weeks. I have to say that Ottawa had never been such a warm and welcoming place until the truckers showed up. And every evening when I came out of the House of Commons, instead of it being a barren street, there was a party going on and people to talk to and friendly people. So if you've seen something in the media that said that this was a violent protest, this is kind of like the mostly peaceful, or unlike the mostly peaceful protests of the United States. This was, I guess, what they call the violent protest, which nothing actually happened. The snow got cleared, the garbage got picked up, the homeless got fed, the bouncy castles came out. So it was news to me that there was any violence, but it was a great time. It was a show of solidarity. There was more Canadian flags than I've ever seen on Parliament Hill. And there was probably about every day a gathering of 3,000 people around the Centennial flag when I was there. And on the Saturdays when I wasn't there, the pictures that I've seen, it looked more like about 12,000 people every day. So I imagine about 100,000 people came through at least over the 3 weeks that we were there. So, and anybody that was interested in coming, I said, come on down. So I think we had about 50 constituents from Northern Alberta showed up for the trucker rally, whether to participate or just to witness what had happened. And so it was a great standing of solidarity. The pictures of folks on the overpasses, every side road, folks coming out for the Freedom Convoy was amazing. And I don't know about you, but the thing that I noticed the most about the convoy was, instead of hearing about how many new COVID cases we were having every day, we heard about how many people were getting arrested from the Freedom Convoy. So it did change the channel. Maybe not in the way that I was expecting, but it definitely did change the channels so that we're no longer talking about COVID cases every day, but something else. And from my perspective, the convoy was amazing. So what did the convoy do? The first thing that happened when the convoy showed up in Ottawa is Quebec dropped their vax tax idea. That happened like immediately. And then we had, applaud that. That was great. And then we had Jason Kenney and Scott Moe get into a running gun battle to see who could drop the mandates faster. It was like Scott Moe said, we're going to, just give us a few days, we'll get rid of these things. And Jason's like, watch me, I'll get rid of them tomorrow. And then Scott Moe's like, well, we can actually do it by Friday. Yeah, so it was great to see that, just the temperature change on it. And we're still waiting for BC to even recognize that the convoy happened, but the rest of the country has been dropping all the restrictions. Unfortunately, our illustrious Prime Minister still is maintaining all of the mandates. In fact, popular guy around here. So we still are, if you're not vaccinated, you're still unable to get on an airplane and fly across the country. You're still not allowed to leave our country. And we've got this, we've got a sign right up front here that says "free to fly," and I think that's what we got to do. And one of the other things that happened during the convoy of being in Ottawa, and I'm going to tell you that it wasn't the reason why he left, but it definitely helped, is that we got a new leader for our party, the Conservative Party of Canada, in Mrs. Candice Bergen. She's been amazing. And I hope that you've heard a significant change in tone and messaging since she's become the leader. We've been every day in question period asking when the mandates will be ending, when people can fly again, when people can cross the border again. So the only movement we've had so far is the government has dropped the PCR test, having to cross back and forth across the border, but the rapid tests are still required. So we'll be keeping fighting against that, trying to get it so that Canadians could travel back and forth across their country in airplanes, across the border, go visit their family and friends in the United States, go to someplace a little bit warmer than this in the winter, and do that all again freely. So all of our peer countries, as they call them, all of the countries that we often do a lot of business with and things like that, none of them have these travel restrictions in. It just seems right here in Canada, for some reason, part of Mr. Trudeau's authoritarian grip is that we must maintain these mandates across the country. So I'm looking forward to continuing to fight with my Conservative colleagues to end the mandates and bring back freedom.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, MP Arnold Gerson. Let's give him another hand. It makes me so pleased when elected representatives start listening to the people, standing for the people, come out, talk to the people at events like this. So that's just fantastic. So I'm looking forward to hearing from more in the near future, more MPs, MLAs, town councilors, county councilors, school board trustees. Anybody who is in a position where they've been elected needs to be listening to the people. How many agree on that? And the people have spoken. The convoy across Canada, Canada's convoy is huge. And it's not just because of the amount of people who participated in it. It's the amount of people who supported it. Those overpasses were flooded with people. The sides of the roads flooded with people. And then here's the other clincher. Here's the other thing when you know you're on the right track. The money poured in. The money poured in. And when the money follows the movement, that is powerful. So let's hear it to everybody who donated. Everybody who donated, thank you for supporting this. My view is this. I'm not as concerned about what happens to the money, although yes, I'm hopeful that the money will be used in positive ways. What I am most amazed about is that money was collected to begin with. Because when the money follows the movement, that's powerful. That shows you the heart of a Canadian, and that's what they want. And they support freedom. We support freedom. Now, what's on my heart? I started a mission on February 4th of last year, and I decided I would give everything I have to the freedom movement. My time, my energy, my resources, my money. I am fully committed. And even if that means my own freedom, so be it, because this is bigger than just me as an individual. It's bigger than even my family. This is about all of us. This is about every Canadian. This is about every man, woman, and child. And so since it's bigger than me, I decided I could dedicate everything I have. I could make the sacrifices needed to move forward. And so I started rallying West Loch, Barhead, Athabasca, Slave Lake, and more. And of course, my rallying took me as well to Ottawa. I left on February 1st. I caught a ride to Ottawa with a trucker that happened to be heading east. He got me partway through Ontario. I caught a ride with another guy in a truck, and I got to Ottawa. On my way to Ottawa, I didn't even know where I'd be staying, and I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just trusting that this call on my heart was something I had to act on. And so even though I didn't have every detail worked out, I just went. I went to Ottawa. My first night in Ottawa, I spent on the floor of a church. That's where I slept. The West Ottawa Community Church took me in, set me up on a mattress and a sleeping bag, and something felt perfectly right about that. I felt like I was right where I should be. One of the ladies from the church really took a liking to me, so she took me home, and I got to hang out a few days with her family. Then I made friends in downtown Ottawa, and then there was another call on my heart to do something super special. And it's because of something that I received from an Alberta farmer. Let me show you. This is my shofar. And I asked a farmer for one of these because I knew he had cattle. And he gave me this back in January. And that's when I started feeling the pull to go to Ottawa. Because it was on my heart that a special event had to happen in Ottawa. There had to be a Jericho March. And so we had one. We did the Jericho March. It started February 11th, one loop around Parliament. February 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, one loop around Parliament once a day for 6 days. That's where I met Lorraine. And on the 7th day, we marched 7 times. And in a sense, folks, the walls came down. just like in the book of Joshua, just like at the city of Jericho. In a sense, the walls came down. They didn't come down in the manner that I intended them to come down. When I promoted the march, I said we want the walls to come down, but we just want the walls to come down around their hearts. That's what we want. We want the walls to come down around hearts so the folks inside Parliament who are not yet freedom-minded can come to understand us who are freedom-minded, and we can make this connection in love. Well, the walls came down in another manner. And so now I'm going to invite Pastor Lorraine to come up and speak further about that. Can you please give her a warm welcome?
Yeah. It's pretty windy. Hi! Hi! Lorraine from Whitewater. We left on our journey to go to Ottawa, not really knowing what we were going to be doing. We just knew we had to go, right, George and Margaret? We got in a motorhome in the middle of the winter and went to Ottawa and parked on the street in Ottawa for 3 weeks. And my husband went with me, and we met several people from Slave Lake here, Sandy and his family, and we became family away from home for 3 weeks, 4 weeks actually. And so I want to share something with you. When I went to Ottawa, I was praying all the way down, why am I going to Ottawa? What is my purpose in Ottawa? And I kept saying, I'm just me. And so what purpose is for me to go and drive for 4 days in the middle of the winter and lose our running water and be in Ottawa? Why am I here? So I went out about the streets and I got to know people and I got into the community with people. And then I heard about a prayer meeting that was happening and that triggered my senses. And so I went up to the Parliament Hill at 11 o'clock in the morning. All 4 of us went up. And we joined a little group that was there that was praying every morning. There was prayer going on all the time, the whole time we were there. And so I decided this was a good place for us, so we started to go there. But there was something still more going on in my heart, and I said, I don't know what to do here, but there's something more that God has us here for, and I still haven't tapped into it. And in the evening, I was getting ready for bed, and I turned on my live Facebook to get the update for the next day. And I saw this gentleman, and he said, are you a Christian, or you like to pray? There's going to be a Jericho march happening tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. If you're interested, then you go up to the Parliament. And it just shot up in my spirit, and I said, I'm going. I looked at Manuel. I said, guess where we're going tomorrow morning? Then I went and saw Margaret and George, and I said, we're going to the Jericho march tomorrow. And I didn't realize it was an hour walk almost every day around the Parliament. And it was the coldest of the coldest of the coldest of the coldest that we could get, the wettest, the dampest that we could do. We triple dressed in our clothing and still got cold. We went up on that Parliament Hill and I met Benita. I saw her once when she was here. I even forgot about what she looked like. And I saw her there and I went to her. And just like that, boom, 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 it went into order. And so I connected with her and another pastor from BC, and we went up every single morning and we did that march, 1 hour every day, no matter what the circumstances were. Hey, give God the glory for that, not me. Come on, we're talking about, I'm going to tell you something about Canada in a minute that you need to be aware of before I let go of the mic. We went, and the 6th day, I remember standing up and saying, we're going to finish this, and if I got to crawl, I'm going to crawl, but we're going to finish the line. Because God's going to do something in Canada, and we've got to be very careful that we don't lay down before it's finished. And on that 7th day, we had to go around 7 times, which means around 7 hours. Come on, think about that. It was pouring down rain so hard, every bit of our clothes got saturated right to our skin. And when we got on the back of the Parliament, there was meetings going on upstairs. And when we got on the back of the Parliament, guess what happened? Slow, sleet, ice. It was cruel. It was terrible. And if anything inside of me wanted to back up and go back, it was then. I fell on the ice. Manuel fell on the ice, bruised up his knee. I I got an asthma attack. I got dizzy. I got everything all the way through it. And I said, I have to go to the finish line because God has to do something in Canada. And that's why he told us to go to Ottawa. I met some amazing people, but there's always why God brings you there. And so I remember going around that last, I think it was the fifth one, and my husband said to me, are you able to do this or do you need to stop? And I said, no. I said yesterday, if I have to crawl, I'll crawl up those stairs, but I'm going. And when I got to the top of the stairs and we went to go sing, I remember when we were just gathered to sing, there was no music. We just gathered with other people to sing, and I could feel just God in it. And I forgot I was tired and hurt and wounded and wet and cold. And then when I went up on the Parliament, right up on where the fire is, I just fell on my knees because I realized it's something when we say, God, the walls have to come down. It's not the way we think it. It's the way God plans it. And so when we came off of that hill that day, I knew that something happened in the supernatural realm that you may not understand. You may not understand, but one of the things that we were praying for is that God would begin to expose the things that are happening behind the closed doors in Ottawa. In the Parliament buildings, we begin to say, God, all the evilness that's happening, all the secret meetings that's going on, all the vendettas that's going on, bring it out into the open. And the next day, everything went wild in Ottawa. Because you know what? God sees everything. And this is what I want to share with you before I close. I had an amazing experience there. I was challenged with tears, with laughter. I was challenged with staying up all night, not being able to sleep, being cold, not being comfortable, missing my family, everything that goes with it. That's what I was challenged with. But I wouldn't change 1 minute for what God did there in Ottawa. And all this talk about, like all the riots, we were peaceful, loving, caring, sweet. We were just loving people. But I began to get really curious about something. And Benita, this is something that really stirred my heart. And I began to do some research on our Parliament building. And I began to go in and find out our history in Canada. And Canada is rooted in biblical principles. There are 25 scriptures from the Bible in Parliament. Come on, listen to that. 25 scriptures in Parliament. So this country is built on biblical foundation, and the roots are down deep, and the devil is like having field day right now. So we as the people got to stand up and say we're going to fight for our country. Because this country does not belong to Justin Trudeau. It doesn't belong to Jason Kenney. It doesn't belong to our MPs or MLAs. It belongs to God. And these forefathers that did that in the sculpture of that building, these forefathers were way before we came on this earth. And we need to honor that. And we need to fight for that freedom. Because the word of God said it was for freedom that Christ set us free. It was freedom. And the word also says that choose for yourself today whom you will serve. And that means he's given us freedom of choice. And the government has taken that away from us. The Bible says choose for yourself. Whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's going to give you good results or bad results, choose for yourself. And 2 years ago, they took that choice from me and you. They took that choice and didn't let me choose for myself what I wanted for my body. Whether I said yes or no to the vaccine, they tried to say to me, you are a leopard if you don't take it. And they also said to me, you can't fly and go see your mother unless you take it. You can't go on mission trips unless you take it. But God's word says choose for yourself. So I have made a choice and you have made a choice. So I'm going to encourage you all. Get your own research on this biblical thing. Get your own research. Everything that the word of God talks about this country is brought into it. And God says this country needs to be cleansed and brought back to its right inheritance. And I want to encourage you today. I'm not a person to say I don't like you because people told me we don't want to be around you because. We're not inviting you in because. And I went through all this for the last 2 years. But the Bible says choose for yourself. And so I make my choices for what I do in my body. I will not be forced by government or anybody else. And I say to Jason Kenney as our premier in this country before I close in this province. We pray for you, Kenny. And you said this week that you wanted unity back in this Alberta. You said it, you want unity. And unity comes in one heart, one spirit going together. We come into agreement that we need to be free. We need to choose our own choices and do our own things. We need to get up in the morning and say, I choose to go into a restaurant and have a meal with somebody because that's something that I do in my life. We need freedom. And I want you to say it all together with me. Freedom. Before I say freedom. 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 We're not here to riot. We're not here to cause a stink. We're not here to cause people to be hurt and wounded. We're causing love to be surrounded. Your families. Get your children back together. Let them love each other again. Let them play their street hockey and everything else they need to do, because our children is the inheritance for the future for us. And Father God, I just thank you. Before I put this mic down, I just pray a blessing upon every man and every woman and every child that's here. I pray, Father God, that this moment forward, God, that they will learn what it is to make a choice for themselves, to choose what is best, not to be forced into anything, but to take that choice and to know if I make a good choice, it will be good for me. And if I make a bad choice, it'll be bad for me, but it's still my choice. And Father, I thank you for the scripture that says that it was for freedom that Christ set us free. Amen. Amen.
What a presentation. When I went to Ottawa, it was partially on me to organize the Jericho March, but I didn't know 100% I'd be doing it. I took the steer horn with me. I just knew it had to happen. And even before I got to Ottawa, I had messaged some people I knew were in Ottawa, and I said, can you organize a Jericho March? Because I know this has to be done. But the people I got in touch with, they couldn't do it. They had too much other stuff going on. And even when I arrived in Ottawa, I didn't know if I'd be organizing a Jericho March. The days went by, but then I got to know some people, and I started to realize, yep, this has to be done. And it was on my heart to do that. So the first day I thought I'm going to do the Jericho March, I thought I better do a practice lap to see if I can even get around Parliament, because a lot of areas were blocked off. And the day I went to do my practice lap, I met some people and they chose to come with me part way. But due to some icy steps, they stopped. And if it wasn't for one young lady, I would have been alone. I would have gone and done that first trek all by myself. But there was a lady. A young lady, and she said, I'll go with you. And we went all the way. We went down icy steps, and we did that first round. She strengthened me. I had my own strength. I had my idea. I had a call on my heart. But in that moment of doubt where I became unsure, someone else stepped up and strengthened me. And we made that lap around. Then the next day, I was concerned about icy steps, so I went around again with another friend. Found some people that were clearing ice and snow and simply requested, will you clear these steps by February 11th? And they said yes. So that was on one side of the march. I went to the other side. There was icy steps again. Found some people there. I asked them, will you clear these steps? And they said yes. And just the way everything flowed, it was like it was all meant to be. It was all meant to happen. And when I met Pastor Lorraine, she showed up that first day. She said, I'm here to be a part of this. And I said, oh, good, because I didn't have all the right words to say on the megaphone before we started the march, but she did. Her showing up and her being there strengthened me. And so what I'm trying to say is you'll have a call in your heart sometimes to do something, whatever that is. Maybe it's to go door to door and hand out freedom newsletters. Maybe it's to call a friend, see how they're doing, and talk about how they feel about the mandates and just listen. You got a call on your heart. And there's so many things in life that can discourage us. Discouraging people, bad weather, or icy steps. And so there's something you need to realize is as strong as we are as individuals, we're stronger together. We're stronger together. And we're stronger when we're plugged into our source, our higher power. I call him Jesus. When we're connected by that golden thread, We're stronger. And so we all got to recognize that. And what's important to recognize as well is it's okay sometimes to seek help. It's okay to ask for help. And I'm very thankful for all those helpers who showed up that week that strengthened me so we could complete the Jericho March. Even the day of the event, I doubted myself and thought, can I finish all 7 laps? I was very tired. I estimate that was close to 14 miles. But like Lorraine, I did it. I pulled through. And at the end of the march, it was prearranged. The horns rang out. All the trucks parked in downtown Ottawa honked their horns for over 7 minutes. And if you know the book of Joshua, after the 7th time on the 7th day, the horns rang out and the walls came down. And in a sense, the walls did come down. And what was interesting about that day, and I'm still contemplating the significance of this, is that Parliament was shrouded in fog. When the horns rang out, Parliament was shrouded. So what signal was God sending? It was the very next day when the hammer came down. Because just a few days before that, Justin Trudeau had announced the Emergencies Act. He'd enacted it. And it was on Friday, February 18th, when the forces came in and became very, very active in muscling people out. On February 19th, they had cleared a lot of Wellington Street, and the freedom-minded people had, in a sense, been muscled out. And I showed up at February 19th at the intersection of Metcalfe Street and Spark Street, which is just 1 block from Parliament. I can see Parliament from the 1 block away. And there's an interesting dynamic there with those forces standing there in their uniforms and their armor with their masks and their weapons. This show of intimidation, just standing there ready to move forward when given the signal. Some of them carried batons, sticks, so they could push on the people if need be. And they just stood there. People like you and me, just standing in the street around. We're not organized. We're just there because it's on our hearts to be there and hold space. And there is a lot of power in holding space. Even if you look at kids bullying each other in school or 2 people trying to bully each other in a bar, a lot of it has to do with holding space. Someone who's a bully will get into your space and they'll try to intimidate you, okay? They'll get their shoulders puffed up and their chest out and they'll try to intimidate you. And that's exactly what the enforcement officers did in Ottawa. It's an attempt to intimidate. But many of us are wide awake and we see it for exactly what it is. It's a psychological game. They attempt to intimidate you with their uniform, their presence, their size, their weapon, their armor, their mask. They attempt to. But many of us are awake. We see through it. And so we learned to hold our own space. We might not have armor. We might not have weapons. And we might not be wearing masks. But we're still very powerful, especially when we stand together. So there were some people who chose to link arms and just stand in peace. Some chose to sing. I had my hands on a megaphone on Saturday, February 19th, and I made use of it because I could sense some dynamics in the group. And so what I said on the megaphone, first of all, is, ladies and gentlemen, we are victorious. We have come to Ottawa. We have made the world pay attention to our cause. The world is awake. We have connected Canadians from coast to coast. We are victorious. And the crowd cheered in victory. Are we not victorious? And although the trip to Ottawa was intended to fully end the mandates, we were partially victorious on that. There were rules coming down in Quebec and Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and more by that point. And so on the subject of ending the mandates, yes, we're partially victorious. Let's celebrate that. So out of the two main goals of the convoy, we've accomplished at least 1.5. But then there was a third success that I don't think anybody anticipated. And that was, we woke up the world. So we are victorious. So that day, February 19th, I reminded the people of their victory because I had to change the mood. The mood was these funny dynamics. And then I sent a message to those enforcement officers that were standing nearby, and I said, I have a message for you. We forgive you. And then I asked the crowd to sing "O Canada," and they did. And then I asked them to pray. If it was on their heart to do so, to get down on their knees and pray. Pray for those officers. Pray for peace. Pray for love going forward. And the majority of the crowd did. They stood in peace. They kneeled in peace. This is about peace and love. This is how we grow the freedom movement. And this is how, in the end, we will be fully victorious. Now, our next presenter was also in Ottawa. He drove his truck to Ottawa, and some of you expressed support for him. And now he has a message for you about his personal experience in Ottawa. And what's interesting about him is that I didn't even know him, and yet I knocked on the door of his truck. I've learned to follow my heart, and sometimes my heart takes me places. And in Ottawa, there's a lot of trucks parked on the streets at every intersection. And for whatever reason, I had to knock on that truck, on that door, and have an exchange of phone numbers. I just felt a pull, and I've learned to act on the pull. That's it. And then later on, just a few days ago, he calls me, he texts me, he says, I hear you're going to be in Slave Lake this Saturday. I'd like to be there. I said, yes. And here he is. Please welcome Sandy Williams.
Can you read? Let me get this. Hi, everybody. I think I know quite a few people in the crowd, and I don't know a lot of other people. So, we'll get started. The whole movement that everybody spoke about so passionately and awesomely. So I heard a couple things that resonates with me 100%, and one of them for sure was the calling. I think everybody's been feeling pretty alone, isolated, everything in all our communities for a long time. And as Canadians, we're pretty hardworking. We understand on exactly, we've been 3 generations deep on putting bread and food on the table for our loved ones, being good providers. And when this thing came up a couple of years ago, it really took everything that we knew to do almost away from us. And
we don't want to miss a word, do we? Give him a little extra applause, folks.
So in doing that, once we understood, what's that, sorry?
Turn the mic up. Turn the mic up.
Okay, you bet. Okay, apparently we're not loud enough. Here we go again. Thanks for telling us. Got it. Yeah. So, anyways, putting it into perspective, we didn't know what to do when this all came up, and so we shared a lot of information for lots of years. 2 years, we moved around, and there wasn't a person that was not sharing information. That knew something was up, but didn't really know on exactly how we're going to get out of this mess, right? And I think when the calling came, I heard about it on a Monday, and it was brought to my attention there was a convoy going to Ottawa, and I thought about it and went up to Tumblr, had some work. Of course, we're all busy. We always got our jobs to do and our life to look after. So I ran up to Tumblr and did some work, and got back on a Wednesday, made one phone call, found out the guy that was the organizer that was out of the north. It was pretty simple. Just get to Calgary, 8 a.m., you're good to go. So phoned up the gal that does my decals, Tammy Khalid out of High Prairie, and she was a lot more knowledgeable about it all. She knew all the organizers. She knew she'd been following it for some time, and she filled me in a bit. So long story short, I got the Saturday we put the decals on the truck, and Sunday we threw a bunch of stuff in the truck and barbecues, and away we went. Three children, 2 boys, and my daughter jumped in with me. And I honestly didn't know what I was getting into. I thought we'd be traveling across the country, maybe 40 trucks in my head, and we'd be barbecuing and just sharing something, but feeling like we're doing something, feeling like we're going in the direction, other than just sharing information. That just felt like that was right. So we got to Atchison that night. We left. The boys from BC were coming through, and some stopped, some didn't, and we all met up kind of on the Anthony Henday. And when we started coming across there, it got big and it got gridlocked, and I was like, these people just want to be part of a convoy, I guess. Oh, who doesn't, right? So it's not no big deal. We'll just get out of here, and then it'll probably quiet down. That night, it blew my mind because every single overpass from Leduc all the way to Calgary was loaded with people. It's loaded. There was fireworks, there was banners, there was kids, there was people of all ages on those overpasses. And it was good old Alberta night, -5 and sleet and snow. And we were running late, probably 4 hours late. And people were still just standing on these overpasses. And I think they would have stood there all night waiting for these trucks to drive by. And so right away I thought, what the heck? Somebody must have organized this way in advance of what was going on. And we kept on driving. We hit Red Deer around about 12:30, just about 1 a.m, and it was lit right up with people all the way through. There was like a +20 day on a Saturday, and it was a full-on parade. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Like, this is crazy. So anyways, it just went on like that all the way to Calgary. We got into Calgary, and there's a whole, must have been around 1:32 in the morning by the time we pulled in there. There's a full-on welcoming brigade. There's people everywhere, fireworks again, the whole works. And I was overwhelmed. I was thinking, wow, this is bigger than I ever thought it would have been. And who the hell can put all this together, right? And next thing you know, as we carried on all the way through right down to Ottawa, message the next day came to me on all the farm fields and the crossroads and the Mennonites, Hutterites. There was every nationality, creed, you name it, every big the amount of flags that you see and all the different decorations that people would put, the equipment that people were hanging stuff from. It came here pretty clear. This is way bigger than any one person could have put together. And it just started to resonate all the way through, and I couldn't wait to get on the phone and start calling back home and telling everybody that we're together. We're not alone. We're not isolated. We're not the 10% that's standing there with this urge and knowing that things are wrong, like we've been led to believe. We're not taking on any of this by ourselves. We're in this together, and the whole country you could see coming together for it. So as we went and traveled further, your heart just kept on getting quite full, because every town you drove into, people were. Yeah, my daughter actually what did you say? You said when we moved into one of the towns. So she was making a lot more eye contact with people, and I had a hard time because it was pretty emotional. When you go through those towns, you're trying to drive, but you could just feel it through the whole cab of the truck. You could just feel people feeling the way you were feeling, discouraged. Yeah. So she looked up at me and she goes, "Dad, why is all of these people crying? Why is there so many people crying?" And they've lived a pretty good life throughout this whole COVID thing. We live in a little town, Canuso. Everybody knows where that's at. Thank God I can say Canuso, and everybody knows where it's at here. So, but they have been living amongst their cousins and the community, and they've been sheltered from a lot of the hurt that's been going on. So I tried to explain to her, but it became very, very, very clear that there was a lot of emotion all the way through, and yeah, as we got bigger and everybody was falling, we rolled into Ottawa, and it was unbelievable. We honestly, when we rolled into Antrim truck stop, that's a little place right outside Ottawa, I felt our mission was done almost. We could have pulled the yellow switches and said, good. Like, I knew our hearts were full, and we seen exactly how unified our country was and how big of a lie we had been told by our politicians, by the legacy media, by all that. And that's a new word that I learned down there. Learned a few words, but it was all by design. Complete divide and conquer, and they almost had it. I think they almost had it done, right? And honestly, driving down there, the trucks, there would have been more people. Going back to something I said earlier about how we're good providers and we understand how to put food on the table, and we never had the freedom fight. We've never had to, as Canadians, we've had a pretty good life, and thank God for the vets and all the people that give us that freedom to have. So we never had to fight for any of it, and so looking at it, but Canadians are unbelievably resolved, just strong human beings, and understand when they understand something, look out. Because one thing we learned down there, and it happened to be the truckers that got the calling to be able to drive across, and that was probably for other reasons, but the fight was going on long before that. The teachers, the nurses, the doctors, everything across there. We were chosen, that's an honor to be able to be the people that got to drive across. But the trucks became pretty symbolic. It was the big shiny truck that could drive through, or big ugly truck that drove up there. But the sense of power, there's one now. So, what an honor to be able to go do it. But it became very apparent very quick. It had nothing really to do with the trucks being other than a movement moving through, but it was people. And we were chosen to be able to go through there and be the symbol of hope. And that was real apparent real quick. And the symbolic piece to bring everybody together. And that's what this became real quick, was about movement of people moved by the right side of their heart, if they're even saying it. And it just, as we rolled into Ottawa and seen it down there, everybody we met in Ottawa came there with a different story, but the same message. They've been put down, beat down, and no idea on how to stand back up. So what we learned throughout this is how to freedom fight, and look out, because at the end of the day, every single person that lost their job, everybody that's had the hardship that we've had, now understands they got a voice, and it's never been as loud as it is today, right? Now we'll across there. So going on to when we were in Ottawa and trying to make heads or tails of it, I drove home for the last 5 days and was on the phone quite a bit, and just kind of figuring out what the rest of what's going on back home. Obviously that starts to become reality again after you've been gone that long, and I wonder if people are getting the message, and trying to figure out if that things have changed, and doing a lot of thinking. And one thing that came very clear, and trying to put things into perspective of what went on exactly in Ottawa, and how was it so amazing, because it was electrifying when you were there. The energy was amazing, the people you met were amazing, and a couple things come to mind very clearly. And one of them was the egos were all gone. There was no such thing as egos. Everybody just rolled in, and they were heartfelt. Everybody was talking. There was no surface babble. That was gone. Number two, people were given from all the right side. They were out of survival, and they've moved up into another elevated state. And it was something else to see. Like when they tried to shut us down, they took the money from us. So $25 million from all the GoSends and stuff. Everybody that, probably you guys out here that were given a lot, everybody was given hard. And they took that and they thought that movement would stop. Well, it didn't. It just kept on going. Then they tried to arrest the leaders. So the leaders that they thought, well, it just kept going. That didn't get it. So there was no way that they could really knew how to deal with it, because it was people. Every individual person down there was there on their own accord for all their own reasons. And one thing that became very apparent was all the people that we met, we all understood we had one thing in common, and that was we were all in. And there was nothing more. We were at our last stands at home. We had come to terms with that. This is probably going to be the last time that we could do something together. And when you get a group of people and Canada being a very big collective of that together, that's powerful. And that's what we got to live amongst all down there. And when you have that group of people all standing there, all in, giving from nothing but the heart, and understanding that there is nothing to be, the fear left, and the energy and the vibration went through the roof there. And that's coming from any different words, religious or God felt or whatever. I'd like to call it the creator. There was a creator that he had his hand on this thing all the way through it all. And basically, I'm going to put something, maybe even in a tattoo. McKenna says no, but maybe I'll get one. But the creator's riding shotgun, and he really is. Because this movement could have been stopped at any point in time. We were rolling traffic violation from Leduc on, and it got bigger and more chaotic as we went. We pulled out of Thunder Bay, and there was supposedly 5,700 units, and that's four-wheelers and trucks and whatever else. There's so many ways that this movement could have been stopped if there wasn't a creator that had his hand on it from start to finish. And as we seen with everything that happened on that Friday, Saturday, we all went down there with this a mission in mind, and figured that, okay, this is the last stand. We're going to end up maybe getting, arrested, beat down. We're again going back to the all-in piece. And once we realized that this is probably going to be reality, every day we were down there, they would throw a different psychological warfare at us. It would be, they're coming today, or they're coming tomorrow, or tonight they're going to, do this, they're going to do that. Once you get the resolve there to know that you're there in the right reasons, you're there on the right side of history, you're on the right side of, it just felt so right that it didn't matter what they threw at you, weren't going to leave. Right. On that Friday, when they came in, they did what they did. We all went there figuring we were going to get mandates lifted, and we'd have a conversation and probably about getting our freedoms back for all of our communities we all came from, because they come from every parts of Canada. We had no idea that we were going to be able to accomplish what we got to accomplish. So most all of the truckers I keep in contact with feel it's 100% a victory, because we went there to talk about one thing, and what we got to learn from what went on down there with them reacting the way they did, it exposed exactly what we all knew has been going on behind them doors, and the level of corruption, the level of greed, it goes on and on. Everybody has their own way to look at it, but the amount of corruption that's came out from this, and I think we're going to keep seeing coming out from it, will be everlasting. And everybody here is now standing here knowing we're in a fight. We're in a fight for everything that we have. And a couple things that I've learned down there, there's a couple of interesting comments or phrases that I heard. One of them is organizing the chairs in the Titanic. And that's basically the world we're living in right now. If we don't fix the ship, it really doesn't matter to look after all the day-to-day little things every day, because the big things are going to be gone. And I think it's never made more sense than when we were down there to watch it all come around. And the other one is just understanding that freedom doesn't come for free. There's going to be benefit. There's going to be sacrifices made. There's going to be things that are going to have to be changed in our life. But I got a phone call on the way home after leaving Ottawa, and lots of them actually. Did you get your bank accounts? Did they do this? Did they do that? And down there, it really didn't even affect you. A lot of this, none of it did, because you're standing in a strong community of people, all in, all wanting the same things, and not caring about what the results is. And Benita actually said it best when she said she had the call in, and when it's a powerful moment when you realize they got nothing to take from you no more. They can only take it once, and that if they had my account, I didn't care, because at the end of the day, they're threatening it. And the only reason that everybody in this crowd hasn't experienced it yet, it's because we've been complacent, all of us, and we've been compliant. But check out the day when you're not compliant, and check out the day when we stop being complacent. They're coming for yours too, right? And but the most cool, the best thing that I can say about a community and making it strong, you're not a fear. The fear leaves, and that's what left in Ottawa. In such a messed up situation, your trucks are parked all over the roads. You got cops sitting on both ends of the streets. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. You don't know what the next hour's going to be bringing. But yet you feel nothing but peace, love, unity, and everything in between that comes with that. The fear is gone, and it all boils down to having good, strong communities and wanting to have things for our kids that we had as kids growing up. They had freedoms. They had to, and even I think as being a good father in any parts of the neck of the woods and any parts of the countries, they want their kids to have a better way of life than what we had. You're always trying to strive for the next generation. And right now, I can honestly say our kids are not having a better way of life than what we got to grow up with. It's a way worse. And if I'm looking in the future, it looks awful, right? So, but we got this. We're actually now, with the best thing I learned driving home and talking to people on the phone, we know we're in a fight. And before we left Ottawa, a lot of people didn't understand that it was that bad. So what they did down there by lifting the veil to a lot of it, and the two reasons that we're in this mess, and every single one of us helped us get there, is we've gotten so busy, being complacent, and legacy media has helped us roll us right into there. They've taken over this whole country by not firing one shell. And if I can leave you with anything, just shut off the TV. It's the absolute joke, right? It's a freaking joke. So, yeah. But I won't keep you no more. I appreciate everybody's support going down there and all that. Again, you don't know how not alone you are, even in your own communities and everywhere that you. Yeah, I just thank everybody for everything they keep doing and keep doing it. And well, we got this. Just got to keep fighting. Hey, have a good day.
Goodbye, everyone.
How about a little extra applause there, folks? A little extra there for Sandy. The truckers are our Canadian heroes. They have accomplished so much success here. So much success. We have inspired the world. There are countries proudly carrying our flag, folks. Mexico, Australia, and more. There we go. And I had to do this in Ottawa as well.
Alberta to Peace River. I've been there ever since, and I'm proud to be an Albertan. After retiring in 2015, I volunteered in politics, and I got involved in the UCP in the North, and I helped build that party. I apologize for that. I was deeply involved, and I got to know a lot of those jokers. I don't want to swear, but anyways, I am angry today. I've been angry from the beginning for what they have done to us, for what they have done to all of you. I put it this way. Our elected representatives and unelected bureaucrats have waged psychological, economic, physical, and spiritual warfare on all of us. From the beginning, I started following the brightest scientists in the world and constitutional lawyers like John Carpe, and I knew this was a lie. And on the passing of Bill 10, the COVID Emergency Measures Act, that alone stripped our rights and freedoms and our dignity. In just 48 hours, all UCP MLAs rubber stamped that vile bill. And so on May 14th, 2020, I walked away from the UCP, a very angry man. And I've been pushing back ever since, and I'm not stopping. So since that time, I've been traveling all across Alberta, speaking with Albertans, looking for solutions, and we understand who our abusers are. We have no trust in politicians, nor should we.
Right.
I'm going to give you 2 reasons why. Today, in Alberta and Ontario, Albertans are imprisoned. Tamara Leach, George Billings, Pat King, Pastor Archer, and his brother Dawood. Their crime? Peaceful assembly, like we're doing here today. Peaceful protest. All within their rights and freedoms under the Charter, under the Constitution. Secondly, on November 10th, 2021, 10 MLAs, Alberta MLAs, met with Drs. Robert Blayone, the inventor of the mRNA vaccine technology, Dr. Paul Alexander, a world-renowned international expert and former advisor to the White House, Alberta's own medical experts, my dear friends and great leaders, Dr. Roger Hodkinson and Dr. Dennis Modray. The experts' message to our politicians: COVID-19 vaccines and lockdowns are killing people. Shut it down now. Now, you probably never heard that, did you? Of course not. Our elected representatives must always be defenders of the people with passion, courage, and moral conviction, not shying away from holding their peers, party, and bureaucrats accountable, and always shining a light on the truth. Just like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, that's what we need in Alberta. Fearless leadership. And so as the people of Alberta, as our children are abused, Alberta MLAs and MPs do nothing to sound the alarm. It's not just Jason Kenney that deserves a leadership review, it's all Alberta MLAs today. So solutions. First, we must come together as people across the province. We must unite. Outside of political parties, outside of political organizations, such as Take Back Alberta, which is run by political operatives of Jason Kenney, of Stephen Harper. The Alberta Prosperity Project is our solution. And with no politicians or political operatives at our table, we have built it for you. Imagine today if 500,000 or 1 million Albertans were standing together in this. That is our communication network of freedom-loving Albertans. And together we would be the tip of the spear, the sledgehammer, the leverage that we've never had before. And we will flip over the table of the self-serving and corrupt politicians and bureaucrats. Here's another solution. I call it a fallback position. We wish to have a conversation with Albertans about the rationale, the merits, the challenges of becoming an independent nation. It is a long conversation to be had, and we feel that we can have freedom and prosperity through independence. I love Canada. I always will. We will always welcome our friends and neighbors from all across Canada to come back to Alberta, to come here and work, to raise a family in freedom and prosperity. We wish to become the beacon of hope across Canada. And so we wish to see an Alberta independence-focused party embrace the vision of our project, to win the 2023 election, to hold a successful referendum on independence. And that will in turn restore the rights, freedoms, and dignity of all Albertans. We will restore accountability of government, courts, and bureaucracy. We wish to hold elected representatives and unelected bureaucrats accountable without mercy. So this is a fallback plan that all provinces could adopt. I myself had outreach from BC, Saskatchewan, Nova Scotia, and they asked if they could do that too. I said, of course you can. I hope you do. This is a way out from the tyranny of Ottawa, no matter who's in power there. It wasn't just Justin Trudeau who started stealing our opportunities. Stephen Harper was the first one to say that we need to phase out our oil sands. These are no friends to Albertans. So I say the Great Reset is upon us. We know that. Our free and democratic society is being destroyed. We have one shot at turning the tide in this. So I urge you to please sign up, donate, volunteer, get involved in the project. What we're doing is building chapters all across the province. I spent a week down in southern Alberta, so that is starting out there and all to the far north. It's time to stand together. For our children, we must. And we must embrace the solution of independence, take back our land, take back our freedom, and take back our prosperity. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Bob Blayone, ladies and gentlemen. In a few moments, we're going to be hearing from one of our special featured presenters. I have a short message before we call him up, but I'm curious to know how many are excited to hear from Chris Sky. We're going to have him up here in just a few moments. I've just got a couple of quick messages for you first. I am interested in starting an army of volunteers. Because when we are here at these rallies, most of the time we're preaching to the choir. And the people who need to hear our message aren't here. They're out there somewhere. So we actually have to actively do more outreach, and we have to get to them with our message. One of the ways to do that might be something like this. It's called Project Inform. And this is a newsletter that was distributed in Lethbridge. And the whole reason one of the reasons I didn't catch a ride with the convoy when they went east was because I had to go to Lethbridge and be a part of this and be a part of this campaign where they distribute door to door, dropping it in mailboxes across the city. And it's a great newsletter. It's got an excellent way of presenting things because we need to continue to work hard to reach the not yet like-minded. Yes, some of them are stuck. They're stubborn. Even the convoy couldn't wake them up, but I still have it on my heart to keep trying. So if you're game to be a part of a door-to-door campaign in your area, wherever you're from, we want to recruit you to sign up. The other reason to sign up, of course, is so that we can email you or text you about other freedom events. Freedom events like this are a great way to get re-energized, get encouraged, make connections with like-minded people, and of course, get educated and inspired as well. How many of you, this is your first freedom event? Anybody? Your first one? First one for some people? Right on. Welcome. How many of you have been to a few by now? You've been to a few freedom events? Yes? Convoys, rallies, protests, all sorts of things. I also do freedom events now that are meetings. We get together in smaller groups and we have meetings. Sometimes we're talking strategically. Sometimes it's about politics. Sometimes it's about other stuff. So if you're interested in me being of service to you, wherever that is, in Slave Lake or area, Peace River, anywhere, I'll go anywhere. My contact information is available at the table there. Sarah, can you hold up my business card? Sarah's got my business card at the table there. Please take my card with you. Phone number, email, whatever. I'll help you with an event. I'll bring the sound system if needed and more if required. I'm on a mission here, and it's my heart that pulls me. I need to keep working for solutions and keep going around and encouraging and inspiring people. And if you feel a draw, you want me to come help you with a project, I am game to do that. So there's my contact info. So if you want to support the good work I'm doing, I will graciously accept your donation. And earlier I talked about the charter, and if you donate $20 or more, you get your own copy of the charter to take home. And on it, you can share that with people who keep asking you that question. Well, why are you fighting for freedoms and rights? We're still free. And the charter can be one of those tools you show them where you explain we're not. And I'll tell you one of the ways I know we're not free, and it happened yesterday. I organize a lot of events. I organize freedom rallies. I promote them. I promote other people's rallies as well. And it is not uncommon for me to receive a phone call from the RCMP to touch base with me. Or the Edmonton Police Service if I'm doing a rally in Edmonton. And so this is the usual phone call I get before an event. They'll call and they'll say, how many people are you expecting? Are you planning on blocking the street? We just want people to be safe. So that's the usual phone call I get. And you know what? I'm okay with that. To me, if the RCMP or Edmonton Police Service care about the well-being of the people, that makes perfect sense to me, and I'm willing to cooperate. And if I am blocking a street, I'm usually only blocking part of a street. I use pylons to help keep people safe, make a guideline, and that's what I do. But yesterday, I received a different type of phone call. They weren't calling about the Slave Lake event. That call came in a week ago. I talked to one of your Slave Lake RCMP members, fine phone call, quick couple of questions, told him we'd have 100 people or whatever, and he was fine. It was just a touch base phone call. Yesterday's phone call was about a meeting I was hosting in a hall last night. And instead of asking me how many people are going to be there and are you going to be blocking a street, I'm inside a hall, of course I'm not blocking a street, he asked this instead. He said, what's the meeting about? He said, what's the meeting about? I have never had an RCMP member or an Edmonton Police Services member contact me and say, what's the meeting about? They're always interested in public safety. But yesterday, things changed. They're asking a question they have no business asking. They're asking a question that implies a violation of our freedom of speech, our freedom of association. That's what's happening right now. So I was certainly not intimidated in the least by the phone call. I simply took note of that and decided I would share it with you. The nature of the intimidation that they are attempting to impose on us is, surprise, surprise, ramping up again. It's ramping up in different ways. They have different ways of doing things. Sometimes it's a phone call and asking questions that they have no business asking. But you have to wonder about what is the Bill C-11, S-233, the bills that they're trying to put through in Parliament and the Senate right now. If you're not already familiar with those, check them out. There's some concerns there about freedom of speech, some concerns there about labeling something as fake news. And there's a caution I have about that. As soon as you say to someone, you can't say that because that's fake news, that's a violation of freedom of speech. You're basically saying that we can't have thought. The whole reason people go to group meetings when they have mental health issues and that they go see a psychologist is because they think through speech. Read it, Jordan Pedersenn, you'll pick this up. People think by talking. I'm one of them. And as soon as you restrict freedom of speech, you are potentially restricting freedom of thought. And so our Parliament and our Senate have some very interesting bills before them right now that are very concerning. And I got a call from an RCMP officer yesterday asking me, what are you going to be talking about at that meeting? So we need to be completely awake. And the intimidation is going to keep coming at you. For all we know, next week, someone might put with a stroke of a pen and say, it's illegal to protest. They apparently have the power to do that. They declared an emergency when they didn't have justification. They very well could, with a stroke of a pen, do that. I have a question I'm going to pose to you. If they say it's illegal to protest, are you going to stop protesting? No. Are you going to stand your ground? Yes. That's what I want to hear, because they'll attempt to intimidate you, and it's going to keep going, and it's going to keep ramping up. So you have to make a decision right now. Are you going to stand down? Or are you going to step up just like those truckers? Those truckers were all in for whatever the consequences. Some of those truckers got their windows smashed. Some of those truckers suffered losses. Their vehicles were towed away. Items were stolen out of the truck. But they were all in anyway, no matter what they had to lose. And so if you're all in, just realize it's going to ramp up. And so you have to make the decision now to be resilient, the decision now to connect more effectively with your network, and the decision now to root into what is your greatest strength. In my case, my greatest strength comes from our higher power, God. That's where it comes from. Maybe that's yours. If not yet, I invite you to check it out. It gives you great strength. This is what has gotten me here today. This is what took me to Ottawa. This is what gives me the strength to stand in the face of adversity. And there may come a time when there's forces in front of you attempting to intimidate you into standing down. And you are going to have to summon some strength. And I can tell you right now that if you think that the strength is only going to come from you and you alone, you're only going to get so far. You're more powerful when you have something more. And that includes us standing together with one another, because when we stand together, we're stronger. So part of our message is outreach. And if you are game to be an organized army of volunteers going door to door, distributing some material, then I'd like to sign you up. So Sarah's got some papers and some pencils there. I just need your email, your phone number, your name, your municipality, and sign you up. And the other bonus you get, if there's other events like this, you'll get notices on that too. The other thing you can do at that table is you can offer suggestions for presenters you'd like to see present in your area, topics you'd like to see covered, and if it's on your heart to give and support the good work I'm doing, there's an opportunity to do that as well, whether it's through cash or e-transfer, whatever's on your heart. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for our featured presenter. I know that many of you have traveled many, many miles to be here, and you are excited to hear him speak. I've been calling him a master motivator when I talk about him, because that's exactly what he is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Sky.
Hello, Slave Lake and surrounding areas. How are you guys today? I'm in an amazing mood, I'm not gonna lie. It's because we come so far in this fight. We came from 2020, where people were thinking I was legitimately psychotic and crazy, to now, not only in Canada, but the entire world knows exactly what's going on. The entire world got on board with united non-compliance. And we made the worldwide awakening, and now we've been taking action, and we're almost at phase 3 of united non-compliance, holding these people accountable. There's one problem, guys. They're not that stupid. They know that their plan has failed. They first tried with coercion, when they tried to pay you to get a jab, or give you a Krispy Kreme donut to get a jab. And then when coercion didn't work, they went with brute force. And brute force brought upon the truck convoy and brought upon the true global awakening. And in response, they started to give us a little of our freedoms back. And that's why Alberta, because we stood up, is the first province to get rid of the Vax Pass. First province to get rid of the masks. They're getting rid of the mandates. But other provinces aren't so lucky, like BC. And there's a reason for that. It's because they complied when we did not. That is the whole story of united non-compliance. When you can compare the next province over to you, and the only difference between the two of you is that one complied and one didn't comply. And the one that didn't comply is free. And the one that did comply is still closed down, still has vaccine passports, still has mask mandates. And they're trying to pretend like that's normal. It's not normal. Nothing that's been happening is normal. And now they gave us our freedoms back here so they can make you complacent. They want you to feel like you've won. But ladies and gentlemen, we haven't won. It's just getting started. You guys have just become aware that you're in a fight. And now because you won one battle, it's not over. They have just changed tactics. And that's what I came here to tell you today. They went from coercion to brute force. Brute force failed. So now they've switched to subterfuge. And what do I mean by that? First of all, this so-called war in Ukraine. Why are we even talking about it in Canada? What has had more effect on your life in the last 2 years? Vladimir Putin's ambitions in Ukraine or the COVID? Thank you. So why do we care? Answer, because the media is telling everybody to. The same media that just 2 weeks ago, everybody was calling fake news. Everybody was saying how pathetic it was that everybody believed the lies for the last 2 years. But then as soon as they invent a new boogeyman, COVID, it doesn't exist anymore, enter Vladimir Putin. And now you go talk to the average Canadian, oh, did you watch the news? You all of a sudden, they're just back on it. And while they're back on it and distracted, what's going on behind the scenes? The government is trying to pass new laws. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, they're in the Senate right now. But they're not talking about that on TV. Max, they're making a bill for the World Health Organization that in the next pandemic will give this global body authority higher than the own country's constitution. They say it will give World Health authorities the ability to streamline a pandemic response to better protect everybody. No, ladies and gentlemen, they saw how we fought back. They saw how we used our laws and rights to protect ourselves. So now they're trying to find a way to subvert those very rights and freedoms and protections that we've all fought for, to nullify them, to make them irrelevant, so they can do exactly what they did to us last year. Only this time, they're going to try to take away the tools and the protections and the rights and the laws that are there to protect us from this. So we're not at the end of this fight, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the beginning. And I talk about all this in this book. This book should be required reading at this point. I wrote it last year, and it's like a crystal ball in paper form. This is all planned to go to one destination. It's called a digital currency. They want this so bad they can taste it. Drake just opened his new nightclub in Toronto. He's so hip. His nightclub is 100% cashless and 100% digital, pushing the agenda forward. Now, why don't they want you to have cash? It's pretty obvious. We all saw what happened with the trucker convoy. What did they do? They confiscated electronic money transfers. They closed down GoFundMes. They froze people's bank accounts. Now imagine you didn't even have access to cash and they can still do all that to you without charging you with a crime, without any recourse for you, and without any way of you knowing if or when you will get access to your money back. And now they've made those provisions permanent. Now every crypto exchange is supposed to have to register with FinTrack so they can monitor your money. They can now freeze your bank account if you try to take too much money out of the bank, according to them. And pretty soon they're going to pass what they're going to call anti-money laundering laws, where they're going to start limiting the amount of cash you are allowed to spend in transactions or allowed to keep in your home. They want to ensure that all your money and wealth is in the banking system, because they're going to transition you very soon to a digital currency. Guess what? You probably got calls from your bank already talking about digital this, digital ID. That is the most dangerous thing. They made you think they got rid of the vaccine passport, but at the same time, they're passing a digital ID. And no, ladies and gentlemen, it's not just your driver's license on the computer. A digital ID will be used as your passport to do anything. You won't even be able to go on Facebook without digitally identifying yourself. So anonymous posting will be gone. Anonymous shopping will be gone. Anonymous peer-to-peer transactions will be gone. They will know everything you are doing. They will know everywhere you will go. They will know everything you are spending. And when they combine that digital ID with a digital currency, they will now control every single transaction you make. They will track it, trace it, monitor it, tax it, and have to approve it. You will not even be able to sell your used shoes on Kijiji without the government's permission. And then it gets worse, because once they get the digital ID, which they're already passing through law right now, and of course they're going to tell you it's voluntary, just like the vaccine was voluntary until they got 70% of the population who were dumb enough to take it, then all of a sudden it was mandatory. The same thing will be happening with the digital ID. And then once that becomes mandatory, surprise, they'll bring the vaccine passport back. Or they'll call it a climate passport, or whatever else they want to call it. And now they can literally shut off your access to your money if you don't do exactly what they say. If they tell you to go out and get 10 vaccines and you don't do it, you can't get access to your money. And that's not just for work. You won't be able to access that money if you're on their welfare system. You won't be able to access that money if you're collecting a pension. And if you have no access to cash, how are you supposed to live? Answer, you're not. That's the point. It's complete control, 100 times worse than we've already experienced with these COVID restrictions. And it's happening as we speak. It's happening right now. As you believe you're getting your freedoms back, they are lulling you into submission. They're making you watch a fake war over here while they're passing the laws and setting up the infrastructure to take away your rights, freedoms, and children's future forever. How are you going to stop it? Very simple. That's why I keep making shirts that say it. Just say no. That's how this stops. The reason that Alberta is free, once again, is because we did not comply. Look at the numbers. 30% of the people were taking the booster over here. That means 70% of the people within a few months will be considered unvaccinated. How can you employ tyranny over a population where 70% of the people are not going along with the plan? Once again, answer, you can't. And that's why I come out to small towns. That's why I'm going on tour in BC next week. BC was the one that complied. Their gyms are closed. They have vaccine passports. They have masks. And they've already been told to get used to it, and the restrictions are going to be there, and the restrictions are going to stay through the winter for a pandemic that no longer exists. And the reason is they're not as organized. They're not as ready to fight back. And that's why I'm going to go there and change that. I'm going to go from small town to small town. And why do we go to the small towns? I can go to Edmonton and Calgary and get thousands and thousands of people, sell all kinds of merch if I really cared about that. Or I can go to a small town and get a high percentage of the population with a few hundred people who are actually going to believe what I hear. They're actually going to put it to practice what I say. And it's going to reverberate around that small town because those people stand up for each other. The people in small towns treat everybody like family. And if everybody around the world did that, this would not be possible. Nobody would push a mask on anybody. Nobody would push a jab on anybody. Nobody would kick anybody out of their business for not having a vaccine passport. Nobody would fire anybody for not being jabbed. That is the secret to this victory. Loving each other like family and just letting each other be free. And letting each other be free means going along with things you disagree with. That's the beauty of freedom. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to agree with my lifestyle. You don't have to agree with what I say. All you have to agree with is the fact that you should be able to do whatever you want. You should be able to make the decisions for your family and your future and not be forced by the government to take an injection or to download an app or to show your papers. Like, did we not learn from Nazi Germany? When people try to tell me that there's no connection, well, I've talked to people that went through that, and they tell me it feels the exact same way, only on a global scale. So yeah, we might not be Nazi Germany. In fact, we're worse than Nazi Germany because we've been doing it for 2 years all over the world to not millions of people, but billions of people. And now what do we see? We see public health officials running for the hills. Christine Elliott was the latest one to resign. And I told you this was going to happen. I told you as the tide turns, you're going to see politicians either pretending to be the hero, like Jason Kenney, getting out in front of it and pretending he's been against us the whole time. Meanwhile, he flip-flops like this flag in the wind. Then you got the other people that will just resign and try to run and hide because they know phase 3 is coming, holding them accountable. And then we got to reach out to our law enforcement because what happened in Ottawa was absolutely disgusting. That's why I made these shirts, Civilian Protective Service, for the men of this country who are willing to stand up and actually protect their friends, their family, their loved ones, and not just stand by and videotape while they're getting their head beat in by somebody with a baton and a uniform without a badge number or a name tag on it. Those people have about as much authority to come and hit you with a weapon as you do to hit them back. That's it. So why the hell would you stand there and let people beat up men, women, and children, run over an old lady with a horse, and then make jokes about it? You guys saw the RCMP chat that was leaked. They were sitting in the Fairmont Chateau Royale sipping tea, eating muffins, and making jokes about trampling an old lady, indigenous woman, with a horse. And where was the good law enforcement? Where were the so-called good cops? You know what? I talked to a whole bunch of them. You know where they were? This might really piss you off. A lot of them went on vacation. Yeah, because they knew that they weren't going to get hired to go work there and get their overtime. And they didn't have the balls to actually go and stand with their fellow citizens. So these people literally left the country, went on vacation, and they're enjoying fun in the sun while civilians are on the front line. Women are on the front lines, literally getting beat up and spending weeks in a freezing cold. I was in Ottawa for 5 days. First of all, the day after I got there, they changed the criminal code so they could start arresting protesters for helping truckers. And then the day after I spoke was when they invoked their state of emergency. It took them 48 hours to go from fringe minority to state of emergency. That's how full of crap our media is and our government. And those people that came there, those officers that came there, make no mistake, they were not all Canadians. They were from all over. They will even tell you they were not law enforcement. They were volunteers in some cases. And the government used the largest police operation in the history of Canada to literally beat up, gun butt, and subjugate Canadian citizens. And then had the balls and the arrogance to declare an emergency that they created, an emergency that's exacerbated by their need for power over our freedom. This has nothing to do with health and safety, ladies and gentlemen, and never did. And now it's getting more sinister than ever because while you believe you're getting your freedoms back, they're working behind the scenes to bring about the next pandemic and take away your ability to fight back. So we have to fight back now. We have to stop worrying about Ukraine. We have to stop worrying about everything that's going on around the world. And we have to start looking at our elected officials. We need to start making them make new laws that safeguard this kind of thing. We need our premiers to make laws that make it illegal for the government, federal, to try to close your business. Illegal to put a mask on your child. We need real recourse. We need real transparency. We need real solutions. Because just going along with it ain't going to work. And just saying no isn't going to work anymore because they're going to make new laws without your input. You're not even going to know about it. They're just going to tell you on the TV, oh, Bill S-233 passed. And they're going to say how wonderful it is and how it's going to help the Canadian economy. And don't believe the crazy conspiracy theorists. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the new battleground. You have to understand we have made a transition. Enjoy the freedoms that you got back. Don't take them for granted. Enjoy them. We're going to have a party tonight, actually, in Edmonton at a place called Levati Lounge. The owner never closed down, never forced masks, never forced vaccine passports. So those are the kind of people I want to support. You're the kind of people I want to support. And that's why when we go to BC next week, we're starting right in the north. I'm going all the way up to Terrace, BC. Yeah, because I know a couple people up there, and I promised them that I'd come, even though it's going to give me an 18-hour journey to my next event. But that's what we do because we're dedicated to fight for freedom. We're dedicated to spread the truth. And if we keep fighting, they can't win. The only way they win is when we give in, when we comply. And I, for one, will never comply. And if you guys are like me, there's only one way this ends. And you know what that is? It's called freedom. Freedom for us and freedom for all. Freedom for all is the only way it's going to be. Fight as they must. Evil always loses in the end. That is why I'm not afraid. Because everywhere I go, every time I speak, I know that God is behind me. I know he's on my side. I know he's on your side. I know he's protecting me and each and every one of us. So I will walk through the fire and hold my head high. And evil will not stop me. And evil will not stop you either, as long as you keep fighting. So don't stop fighting. Don't let your guard down and spread the word about what's really going on, ladies and gentlemen, because they have not stopped. They have just changed tactics once again. I love you all very much. Please come help support everybody that's with us, and I would love to come back and see you guys again. Thank you so much.
I got to tell you about Chris Guy's book, you guys. I have his book, and in his book, he writes exactly how he talks. It's just like taking his speech home with you. So I encourage you to get his book.
Say one thing. My book was so scary to them when I wrote it. I got a deal from Amazon. And you know who convinced me to write that book in the first place? Justin Trudeau's brother, Kyle Kemper. I swear to God. Mr. Kyle Kemper reached out to me and he said, I don't like what my brother's doing. I love my brother, don't get me wrong. But he described him as an actor in a horror movie playing a role that he has no choice but to play. That's exactly what his words were. So I guess he kind of felt pity. But he got me hooked up with the people from Amazon. And I thought that was strange. I was like, why the hell would Jeff Bezos want to publish my book? But they did. And they gave me everything I needed to get it going. They said they're going to publish it, put it on their site, sell it, distribute it. 2 days before it was supposed to go on sale, I got arrested. I got charged with a multitude of crimes because they didn't want me to launch the book. I got out, and it took me 9 cars and a helicopter to make it to Vancouver on time to launch the book. The day that I got there and the day the book was supposed to launch, I got an email from Amazon stating that my book is now the first book in the history of mankind to be banned by Amazon before it went on sale. That's right. And why? Because it tells you exactly what's going on. It tells you exactly where it's going. It tells you exactly how to protect yourself. Like I said, at this point, it should be required reading. So please get a copy. I'll sign it. And I want you to do 2 things for me. I want you to read it, and then I want you to pass it on to somebody else to make them read it. And I'm telling you, it's only 53 pages. You can read it in an afternoon. Within a week, your entire town will be transformed. I love you guys.
Thank you, Chris. Let's hear it for Chris Guy, ladies and gentlemen. I encourage you to head over to his table, check out his book, check out the other merchandise. Got some awesome sweatshirts there. I'm loving the new one, by the way. Fantastic sweatshirts, and they may have toques as well somewhere. Just ask. My name is Benita Pedersenn. I'm with All Fired Up for Freedom. Can you guys help me with that for a second here? I'm going to give you a little bit of a script to read. I'll say All Fired Up for, and you're going to say freedom. You're going to shout it out, all right? Here we go. All fired up for freedom! All fired up for what? Freedom! All fired up for freedom! All fired up for what? Freedom! All fired up for freedom! Fantastic, fantastic. I am loving your energy. Thank you, Slave Lake. Thank you to all the reps from Slave Lake that invited me to be here. Thanks to all the volunteers who helped make today amazing. We're going to spend a little time hanging out here for a bit, and then later on, we're leaving on a convoy. How many of you are excited to convoy around Slave Lake? Fantastic. So we're not leaving just yet. We're going to hang out here for a bit. Please visit both tables. Please come see me at my table here. If you want to express appreciation for the good work I'm doing, that would be super. If you have suggestions for me, I am open to your suggestions as well. The other thing I encourage you to do is exchange contact information with one another. I am sensing in the future we need to be better connected. All right? So if you all could do that over the next while here and connect with the tables. Thank you.